Our show continues. A lot going on. Michael Steele's here, and we turn to this escalation in the Georgia probe where a judge is formally ordering Rudy Giuliani to testify to this grand jury. Prosecutors say there's evidence Giuliani was part of a coordinated plan to influence the results. The grand jury has been looking at this and how he faced legislators in the state. Here's what one lawmaker described to us earlier this month.
It was surreal. You know, you walk in and there's Rudy Giuliani. I'm literally Googling who is John Eastman when he pops up. And he purported to be giving expert testimony, you know, on the Georgia Constitution and Georgia law. And the man isn't even a Georgia lawyer.
Michael, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it just kind of sums the whole game up right there. You know, Rudy played a particular role for Donald Trump. He was, if nothing else, the great disruptor. He was the guy who was sent in to sort of create and ferment the chaos, to raise the questions, to stir the anxieties of the established order, and to excite the base as best they could. There was no legal pretense that Donald Trump was being represented by Rudy Giuliani, even though they'll now try to claim privilege here and attorney-client relationship there. But the reality of it is that clip right there tells you everything you need to know. He was sent in to do a thing without knowing who the other players who were also a part of this narrative were sent to do. But he didn't have to. And I think what is interesting about the Georgia case, which I believe may be a little bit problematic for someone like Lindsey Graham, is the connective tissue in the narrative. The language used, the questions that were inquired upon. Lindsey says, well, it's my duty to inquire about how these elections are run. Well, were you asking the same questions that Rudy Giuliani and others who were trying to overturn this election were asking? So there's a lot of connective tissue here. And at the center of that tissue is not just Trump, but someone like Rudy Giuliani, who was out there to pull the extra strings that needed to be pulled.
Yeah, it all makes sense. Michael, you and I have talked about this on air and off, the way that parts of the insurrection hearing are breaking through. There's an old expression, some people have heard of it, it's called real talk, when you really get real. But there's a new school expression, Michael, and I know that you're pretty hip. You know, people can make up their own minds, but that's real talk, T-O-K, because a lot of people are using TikTok and other social media to share their reactions. And I always say, like, Twitter is like for media and political junkies, and that's fine. What you see on Facebook and now TikTok is a lot more of the rest of the nation. That's why you can find everything from, it's real, what's going on in schools, community centers, sports, you know, people's reactions to things, recipes. So we've actually done a little bit of reporting here to look at what people are saying, because there's this emerging consensus here in the reporting and in Trump's orbit that the drip of revelations has some Republicans just getting tired of Trump. We've seen polling that independents have paid attention to these hearings. And here's some of just a sampling of what regular Americans are saying around the nation and posting online about. Take a look.
Okay. It is riveting. It is terrifying. It is enraging. It is sickening. And every one of us needs to watch it, y'all.
We're having hearings about a sitting president who attempted to overthrow the United States of America.
People don't try to go hang someone with their selfie sticks.
Surprise witness was Cassidy Hutchinson, and her testimony just blew the roof off of the investigation.
To hear Giuliani say they were passing ballots back and forth like cocaine and heroin made me want to vomit. He is vile, racist, and disgusting, and so is Trump.
These witch hunts, these witch trials, they can just find, it's just pomp and circumstance.
Trump, you're going down, dude.
Michael, you see these hearings breaking through. We saw reactions there from people both reacting to the evidence as this committee's presented it and some pushing back. What do you see going into the final hearing about this actually reaching people?
Well, what that says to me is how much these hearings have captured the conversation for people, how much people are willing to express. You're not hearing people say, oh, my God, this is a witch hunt. This is a waste of time. And I'm sure that in certain environments that's there, certainly being pushed from Trump supporters. But mainstream America, which, you know, often gets reflected in these other types of outlets on social medias like TikTok and Facebook, you know, they're expressing raw reaction to what they're hearing, what they're seeing. So it tells me that the committee has done a very good job, Ari, of framing this conversation, not in a political context or way, but in a very open way in which you take the information, you absorb it, and you draw your own conclusions from what you're hearing. And the conclusion that a lot of Americans are drawing as they continue to watch this, and it's actually rather episodic, is damn, right? Everyone's walking around. I mean, I've talked to people to go, I just can't believe this. And so that is going to be very important as this, and I think this committee should go right to January 3rd. I think they should go right up until the next Congress comes in, get through the elections and see whether or not the Republicans have control of the House, because if they don't, you can continue some of that work if you feel you're up against a wall. If they do have control, then you know you've got a window of about 6 to 8 weeks to wrap it down. But you will have already not put the pressure on yourself to shut it down in August or September, but really ferret out, which I think Americans want, as much of that information as they can get, because they want to know what happened. And that's something the Republicans can't control at this point.
Yeah, you really lay it out. That makes sense. And we are seeing in all the different ways that we can measure it, people summoned to look at the evidence. And that's going to continue, of course, tomorrow night. Michael Steele, always good to have you, sir.
All right, my friend. You know, I thought you were going to do another TikTok, but we won't go there.
Oh, I think I know the one you're speaking of. If people want to know what Michael's talking about, you'll have to go. By the end of the hour, I'll remind people where to find all the TikToks. I appreciate the shout out. Thank you, Michael.
Right.